Okay, let's talk about how the Diablo twin wire arc system actually works. We'll go over the machine step by step and show you all of the buttons and levers and knobs and everything and how the entire system operates, and this is a tour of the gun and the machine itself. The principle upon which the Diablo twin wire arc system actually works is very simple. It actually forms something similar to like a double-barreled MIG gun. It feeds two sets of wires that are electrically charged all the way through the wire feeder and up the coaxial cable into this gun head assembly, where they are bent and to where they will arc out on each other right here where these contact tips meet, and they form an electrical arc. And right behind that is a blast of just compressed shop air which blows across that arc zone. So the second that that metal goes molten, it's blown forward and sprayed forward and will adhere and stick to anything that is porous or has been properly prepared. So the system is really easy to use. As soon as you pull the trigger on here, it will start feeding wire through the system. It will meet here and arc out. The arc is protected by this particular air cap assembly, so you don't actually see it up inside there, but you can see it reflected off of shiny surfaces. So all of that air is concentrated across that arc zone, and the little individual droplets of material is sprayed forward. So therefore, the greater the air pressure that goes across the arc zone, the finer the droplets of material are. So you can somewhat control the texture, if you would, of the spray by how little or how much air you pass across that zone. Now the gun head assembly itself, the only two controls up here are the trigger, which causes it to start working and the wire to feed and it start arcing out. And then this particular safety switch right here, which allows you to lock out the gun so that it can't be accidentally turned on while you might be messing with anything else on the wire feeder, like loading wire or something like that. So on the front side of the gun, we have some simple things. Right here is the power source. The switch to turn the power source on. When you turn that on, then you get a little white light right here. That means it's ready to go and that everything is percolating okay. On the front of the gun right here, the two most important controls are the voltage and the amperage displayed up here digitally on these two indicators. The voltage should be set, in most cases, for most hard wire, somewhere right around 27 volts. The amperage is usually right around 200. This also controls how fast the wire feeds through the gun as well. This particular knob is called the jog button. Basically what it does is it turns off electrical power and it feeds the wire through the system without any charge or electrical power provided to the wire, so that it's most commonly used to load new batches of wire into the system. These two indicator lights indicate whether the power supply, the wire feeder is receiving power from the power supply and whether it's receiving it correctly and is ready to spray. So when these two lights are on, it's ready to go. This is a emergency cutoff switch, so when you want to knock off all power up here to the wire feeder, you just hit it right there and it automatically locks it out. So nothing can happen from this point forward, and you actually have to twist it and let it come back out in order for you to use the gun again. These two particular buttons control the air supply. This one right here purges the air. In other words, you hit it once and it will let air come through the entire system and out the gun head, just to kind of blow it out if you want to. This one will actually, the maintain air will actually lock it on and keep it in place. So if you want to blow off dust off of anything, that you can do that. It keeps it on. This is a system ready light. That means that when it's green and ready to go, that means that there's correct power up here to the wire feeder and it's ready to start. And then this is the start button right here. So as soon as you unlock the emergency knock-off valve or switch, you hit the start valve and it's ready to go. Okay. Here's the coaxial cables on both sides that wire is feeding through. This is the air supply to the gun head assembly, and this is the control cable that controls that allows the trigger to turn this whole unit on and off. This is a duplicate air pressure gauge up here in the front as to what is the regulator in the back. But this is what we can see from up at the front of the gun or the wire feeder, how much pressure that we're spraying at. And you want to keep this at somewhere, it'll operate safely anywhere between, say, 45 pounds and upwards of 75 to even 80 pounds. Common operating pressure would be about 60 pounds of air while you're spraying up here. So when you pull the trigger or press the maintain air, you want to make sure that you're maintaining that. You can get by with using less pressure than that. However, the trade-off for that is you might use a little more consumables. You might burn up your contact tips a little bit faster than you would have normally. But some people will drop the air pressure down to, say, 40 pounds in order to get a much more pebbly texture on whatever it is that they're spraying. Okay, on the sides of the gun over here, there are several little controls. These top three knobs right here control several things. This one right here controls how long the display stays on after you get finished pulling the trigger while you're spraying. So you can look back and see what parameters you were spraying at. These two knobs control how early the air comes on before the arc starts and how late it stays on after the arc is finished. So if you pull the trigger on the gun, if you dial in a little bit of a delay here, the air will start, then the arc will commence, and then if you add a little bit more on this knob, it will continue on a little bit afterwards. So that if you keep about a half a second delay on either one of these, it will make the air come on about a half a second before the arc, and it'll leave it on about a half a second after the arc stops. And if you do that, it will keep the tips of your wire nice and clean and ready to go at all times. This particular set of toggle switches right here is for remote use of the gun. There's actually a spot in the back where you can attach a remote control commonly used for robotic purposes of this. You can actually mount the gun head assembly to either the steady rest on a lathe or actually a robotic arm and use it that way and sit back and operate the entire machine either from a computer or from a remote control. But you will never use these if you're doing it in the manual mode. Just don't mess with these as long as you want to use the gun head assembly by itself. These two timers back here are of particular use. They time how long the unit has arced out or has actually been in use, and it also counts how many feet total of wire has fed through the gun. So it allows you to, if you know the weight of the per foot of the wire that you're spraying, it can indicate to you how long a job has taken and actually how many pounds of wire that is used. And you can reset these at any time. Some people leave these going and set up maintenance schedules, ever so many hours of spraying and that sort of thing. So these are very helpful to use. On the rear of the system back here, you actually have two controls. One of them here is the remote control portal. So if you were going to use this in any type of a remote system, like a robotic system, this is where the cabling would attach. And then you have the regulator back here, and you can somewhat control your incoming air with this knob back here. Dial it forward or backwards to increase or decrease the entire air pressure. And it has a little bit of a dryer back here in the back too. So if your plant air is a little moist, it will pull it out right here and shoot it down toward the bottom of the machine right here. And on the other side of the machine, there are simply 3 circuit breakers right here. So if you ever have a problem, a power issue with the wire feeder, check the circuit breakers here first. They will pop out if there's any problems, and you can reset them. There's also two other places where circuit breakers exist. One of them is down below on the front side of the machine, right up underneath it. There's a circuit breaker down there. And then around in the complete back of the machine, back here in the very back, there's a fuse right here. And if you ever hook your power up wrong or get it crosswise, or there's any problems with your plant voltage or amperage, that your feed amperage, it will take this fuse out here first. So those are all potential problems. If you have any power issues, that's where they'll be at. And that's pretty much it for the system here. It's now with that tour, all we need to do is discuss a few safety items, and then we'll be ready to spray.